sounds so dumb because it's like, duh. Have you officially stopped breastfeeding? Some people ask for an overall house update. God, how do I answer this question? Did you like your induction? I was like, wait, I haven't given birth to this one. Oh, and I'm infertile. Baby number 2. Here's the situation I'm at. And hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I hope y'all are doing super duper well. I realized recently it was the last week of January, which kind of feels like the last bit of the refresh kind of start to a new year. Before we just dive into all of the happenings, even if it's just like an updated day in my life type of vlog, I thought it mimight be nice to do kind of a refresh catch-up Q&A, answer some things that you guys have been wondering about before we dive into 2025. I put up a question box on my Instagram, so if you want to be part of videos like these in the future, make sure to go follow me over there. But without further ado, we've got lots of questions to get into, so let's hit it. Did you feel any separation anxiety when you moved Annie to her own room? We moved Annie to her own room at almost literally a week before she turned 6 months. And yes, we like to joke that that night was very sleepless, but only for Jack and I and not for Annie. Like, Annie slept the entire night, basically all the way through. She loved her crib from day one, from the day one transition, but it was sad. Like, it was such a great feeling to kind of have your space back, and Jack and I weren't like whispering, like the softest little whispers to like talk to each other at night because she was no longer next to me, but there was such an empty feeling next to me. I do remember thinking that. I remember crying. I was sad, but I ultimately knew it was just such a special and good transition for everybody involved in our family. Have you officially stopped breastfeeding? Jess did, and it's sad. I feel that, and I am with you. I did get a lot of questions on breastfeeding, so I'll give you guys an update on that. I'm officially donezo breastfeeding. We breastfed, I feel like a little bit over 13 months, I would say, because how we did it is just a very slow taper. And that slow taper, I would say, definitely helped for me. I would say it kind of made it less sad in a way too. Even though I knew it was kind of happening, it's like when I dropped one feed at a time, it was like, well, I'm only dropping one feed. I still have 3 more. Okay, I dropped another feed. I still have 2 more. So it kind of just didn't feel so heavy. It also allowed my body to kind of regulate itself slowly but surely versus dropping a few feeds at a time. So I really liked how we did that. And then I would say the ultimate thing that probably helped me not really get into my feelings about it was I didn't know when the last feed was going to be, which is kind of sad in its own way, but it really helped me. I had dropped one feeding every 1 to 2 weeks up until the last one, and I kind of just like clung to that last one because I just wasn't ready yet. But there was just this one feed where I could just sense it. She was ready. She didn't need it emotionally, obviously physically she didn't need it. And it was just a feeling that I felt like we both had. I can't describe it other than that. And it was only after that feeding that I decided that that was the last one. So I didn't like go into it being like, no, I think this is the last one. Okay, like soak it in, which I think helped me a lot. But yeah, I definitely relate. It's definitely a complex set of emotions when it comes to the decision to stop breastfeeding and the timing of it. That's the update, and that's how we did it, and those are the things that I think really helped us. Favorite pregnancy low intensity workouts that I did. IVF mama to be. Oh, congratulations, that's so exciting. I remember in the first trimester, essentially I would make my way to the gym and then probably walk on the treadmill for 20 minutes before I felt like there was no way I could do that anymore, and I went and I waited in the car for Jack. So don't pressure yourself if you're in the first trimester. It is so rough, or it can be so rough. But after that first trimester and I was feeling much better, I essentially just kept up with the weight training that I was doing with Jack before, but obviously with some adjustments. As the belly was growing and was adding more weight to my body, we would lower the weight or intensity that I was doing things and just kind of like feel everything out. For example, before I was definitely on more of like a structured program, like I would do this exercise, this exercise, this exercise, you know, Monday, Tuesday, whatever. But I remember in pregnancy, it was just maintain. It was just to get there. The idea was to move my body, feel like I was moving my muscles, and that's about it. I wasn't following really anything. I just got there, did some weight stuff, felt like I moved a little bit, and went home. The hardest part of motherhood and the hardest part of toddlerhood, oh my gosh. I feel like I have thought about how to verbalize why motherhood is so hard, and I don't think I can verbalize it. Like, it is true what they say. It is the most special, magical, and like unbelievably happy part of my life that I have experienced so far. Absolutely. But oh my gosh, I've never experienced something harder. And I went through IVF. That's a different hard, to be honest. But even having gone through those things and still finding this so hard sometimes, I'm trying to think, how do I verbalize it? I think the thing that makes it so unexpectedly hard some days is that before, when we were dreaming of starting a family, and you have no idea what the reality of that kind of looks like, but you have the happy moments and all of those things in your head, like going to get donuts on Saturday, and I can't wait for her to experience the beach for the first time. You have all these expectations and all of these happy things that you are looking forward to, and you know that there's hard because everyone talks about it, but there's absolutely no way to prepare yourself or to truly know what that is until you're in it. And for me, it was, I think, the realization that, this sounds so dumb because it's like duh, but like the realization that this is a 24-hour job. Like, yes, it's really fun to go get donuts, and yes, it's so fun. It was so fun that she got to see like the ocean for the first time when we went for the first time, and when she learns something new, or when I give her a toy and she's just so excited about the toy. Like, you can see that I light up more than I've ever lit up in my life every day, but there's no break. Like, until she goes down for her nap and until she goes down for bed, you are just on. And especially when they are tiny little humans, they need so much. So it is constant diaper changes, meal times, prepping meals, making sure she eats enough. She might independent play for a little bit, which is amazing, but then of course she wants to play with you because that's so fun. She wants you to read her book. She wants, like, it's just incredible, but very hard when you think about that all day long. Because before kids, your time was all yours. Like, all of your time essentially was your time, and you chose what to do with it. You could leisurely get up in the morning and leisurely have your coffee and all those things, and I used to think that I could still do those things, and essentially you can. However, you will have a toddler that is clawing at you to get up while you reheat your coffee because it's cold, because you haven't been able to sip it, because she wanted to play blocks with you just a little bit before. And then also I, want to go wash my face because I feel greasy and I haven't like done anything for myself in the morning, and she wants to come in and also get up on the sink, and oh, she spotted her toothbrush, so now she wants to brush her teeth. And you can put her down and choose yourself, because that's a very healthy thing to do, but then she's really upset. So now you're washing your face and it's not peaceful and it doesn't feel good because you have a toddler that is whining and crying next to you just constantly. So with that said, I am so grateful. Don't get it twisted. I am so grateful. I would not trade this for the world, but I think that's how I can describe the hard in it. So imagine that kind of like every single day and kind of navigating that. And then just to round out that question, it said the hardest part of toddlerhood. I think I will just say that for me personally, toddlerhood is awesome. Like, it's freaking hard, but it is so much fun. But that is coming from somebody who had a, looking back, colicky baby experience. Anything beyond that newborn phase has been so awesome. Definitely hard moments, and every phase comes with like their own hard, but also like new awesomes. And I personally am definitely more of a toddler phase type of mom versus like a newborn type of mom. And I've learned to accept that and know that that's okay. Do you still use the Huckleberry app for tracking? If not, when did you feel ready to stop? It was kind of hard to feel ready to stop. I remember I was just kind of doing it. Like, I would track her feeds and I would just make sure like her naps and all of that stuff. And I think when we just got really comfortable with her nap situation and just knew that she would have 3 naps a day or however many she was taking, I realized one day as I was logging something into it that I was like, wait, I already know this information. Like, like I do this every day. I know that she's gonna go down for X and then she's gonna wake up and then we're gonna do that. Like it didn't feel like I needed to log it anymore, but it was just muscle memory at that point. There are a few varying questions about a house update and kind of where we're at with living in Maine, etc. So first of all, somebody asked if we see ourselves living in Maine permanently, and I would say yes. We have no intentions of leaving the state as far as our permanent residence goes, which is hysterical because if you know me, you know how much I despise the winter. I'm trying to lean into it more as the seasons go on, but it is really hard, and I thrive in the summer. But if you know anything about Maine summers, they are literally iconic and the best, so I'm here. Between that and the family feel of raising a family in Maine, the state overall feels just very safe compared to a lot of different areas that we've lived before. Being on the coast of Maine is just, I feel like the luckiest girl in the world sometimes. It's incredible. And plus my parents are here too, so there's a lot of love that we have for this state and a lot of hominess that we feel for it, so yes on that. Some people ask for an overall house update because I mentioned that I think we looked at a house, I think the last time that we talked, and there's definitely an update or events that happened after that. I'll save the details for the next vlog, but spoiler alert, we don't have a house right now, so that's the major update. We are continuing to look, and we have narrowed down basically exactly where we want to be, which is great in some ways because it's like we're not questioning of, oh, we could land here, we could land here, but at the same time it's like there's a very specific kind of area we want to be. So you're kind of just waiting for like a house to pop up, and then hopefully you get that house, and then, you know, etc., etc. But it also gets us really excited because that area is just like a dream come true for us, especially when we went to visit it. It was just like, oh my gosh, like I do hope it works out, but we are just waiting for the perfect home to pop up. And then just last house question, people asked about our like wish list or must-haves when we're looking at a home. I would say overall must-haves are good bones to the home. We're currently not looking for a massive like tear down or fixer upper house. Ideally though, it wouldn't be like a new build. I do love the character of some of these older Maine houses, so somewhere in the middle of like brand new and decrepit, and you're gonna need to like tear that down and just rebuild on the lot essentially. Good natural light right off the bat. I know a lot of these things you can change obviously when you own a home, but these are just things that would be really ideal when we move in. Literally just sat here for like I don't even know how many seconds trying to think of other things because I was gonna say like hardwood floors or this or that, but the thing is, if the house has good bones and it has great natural light like right off the bat, a lot of the other stuff could be considered cosmetic. Like if it doesn't have hardwood and it has carpet throughout, then we would just make sure to look to have money in our budget to rip up the carpet and choose some new floors, so to speak. So it kind of just depends on the home that we come across, but yeah, I think those are the two things. Oh, and obviously location. Okay, so three things: the natural light, the good bones, and then now the location. We are pretty set on a location that we're looking in. Having an IVF baby this spring, did you like your induction? Should I request to go to 40 weeks first? I can just share my experience. I wouldn't feel right to tell you that yes, you should go for this or this or that because everybody's wants and wishes are so different. Although I definitely was that pregnant woman that was like asking my OB to just make the decisions for me. And I think she said literally 10 times, she was like, Mac, I can't tell you what to do. I can just give you the data and I can give you the studies and I can give you the facts, but I cannot tell you what to do. I was like, why? I would say that I personally look back at my birth experience so fondly. I loved my birth experience. I don't know if I would say that I love the induction part of my birth experience. It just kind of went with it and I just had a great experience overall because I also don't have anything to compare to it because I didn't go into labor naturally at that point. I had a 39-week induction, but I love how my hospital handled it. I felt very empowered all the way through. We took things really low and slow, starting with the balloon, which I was very, very against, but you can watch my birth vlog to see my feelings throughout it, and then me ending up feeling totally fine with it. And it actually progressed me a lot, so I really enjoyed that experience at the end of it. And then we did a really low drip of Pitocin, working our way up, but like in really small increments, so it just felt very controlled, not out of control. So I guess that part of it I did enjoy, that induction experience, how they went about it. If you were to ask me with our next, like, would I choose it again because I had a great experience or would I wait, like I have that curiosity about waiting to go go into labor as well. So I don't know, but that's all I can say. I really enjoyed my birth experience, and Induction was part of that. So, favorite books, clothing brand, and shoe brand for Annie. I will make sure that this is updated, but I have an entire section on my Amazon storefront of all of her favorite books. I definitely need to add to that because I'm thinking of a few that she is obsessed with right now that are probably not on that. As a book girl, that is the place to go for her favorite books for sure. Favorite clothing brands right now are H&M and Hannah Anderson, which are a great balance because Hannah Anderson can be a little bit pricey. Luckily, Nana comes in clutch. She loves dressing Annie and Hannah Anderson right now. She's styling. That baby is styling with those. And I would say the reason why we love Hannah so much is because it's so colorful, which I definitely did not see coming. I thought that she would just be in like neutral colors through and through, but colors are so fun. And the way that Hannah does their colors, it's not like cringy colors, at least to me anyway, in my taste. It's really fun and the patterns are so fun. So that's definitely a favorite. And then on the opposite is H&M, which still has such cute clothes, but so much more affordable. I get so many sweatshirt sets from there that are so cute. I get her basics from there. They have so much stuff that is, for example, 100% organic cotton, so it's not like it's really crappy quality and that's what you're paying for. It's actually great quality and the price is really low. So yeah, I would say those two for our favorite clothing brands right now. And then for shoes, it's absolutely Stride Rite. It's between Stride Rite and Crocs. I would say Crocs more so in the summertime, although I have fleece lined Crocs for her for the winter and they're very cute. But primarily her everyday shoes are Stride Rite, little sneakers and stuff like that. Their shoes are constantly coming up on like best shoes for new walkers or best shoes for toddlers, just as far as the support, how flexible the shoes are. Unfortunately, they are so pricey. However, these shoes that I've gotten her, I believe like every pair I've gotten her has been on mega sale on their site. They do really, really great sales. Oh, and one more thing about the shoe situation. She only wears shoes when we like go out and about, and I know she's going to be kind of running around places, but if we're primarily inside, and especially in the winter if her feet are chilly, Bombas makes the best little like in-between sock and slipper option. I'll leave exactly the ones linked below. I'll leave her shoes. I'll leave anything I'm mentioning linked below in case you guys are wondering. But these Bomba slippers, they're called gripper slippers. I have raved so much about them on my Instagram. Absolutely not sponsored. I've never worked with them before, but they're so comfy. They're so cozy. Jack and I have a couple of pairs of the adult ones ourselves, but they're the perfect in between. I find that socks are one, not as warm, especially in the winter Maine months, you know, but the grippies wear off. I think you can get pricier socks that have better grippies on the bottoms of them, but these slippers have the best grippies. She never slips in them and they're just like slightly warmer. So those are just such a great option that are not barefoot, but they're not full-on shoes. The gripper slippers from Bomba is so good. Did you go on BC postpartum? I have an IVF pregnancy and not sure what to do after birth. I thought I was. Like, that is something that they brought up to me before giving birth, which I'm happy that they did, because that is just not where my mind was at all as far as like birth control, family planning. I was like, wait, I haven't given birth to this one. Oh, and I'm infertile. So like, that's not necessarily on the top of my mind to think about. So it is something that I discussed with my OB before, and we came up with an option that was just very low hormone and something that wouldn't interrupt breastfeeding if that ended up working out for us. So I felt really good. But I will say, when the time came for postpartum, and I personally was just having, now that I look back at it, even 6 weeks postpartum when I went for that appointment, I was so down bad. The depression was so real. I was writing it off as baby blues still. Oh honey. But yeah, I was all over the place. So when I went for the 6 weeks and she prescribed what we had talked about when I was pregnant, I honestly was just so in a haze, and I was like, yep, sounds good, whatever. I never picked it up. Never picked it up. For me personally, birth control 6 weeks postpartum was so weird. It was such a weird concept to pump my body full of hormones, no matter how little the amount was, when I felt so out of whack. Like, that just felt so backwards for me that I was like, no, absolutely not. That's not a thing that I'm going to be doing. Thank you so much. Somewhat speaking of postpartum depression, a few people asked how I am doing, which is very, very sweet. I am doing so good. I feel like I've finally hit a point where even if you asked me in a few months, I would still feel like the same way that I feel now, which is great. Whereas before, I would think that I felt really good because I was kind of climbing out of the fog and out of that dark place. It's almost like I felt like I was fine because a couple months ago I was worse, but then even a couple months beyond that point that I thought I was fine, I was like, okay, now I'm fine. Like before I was still like climbing up, but now I'm fine. And then it would keep happening, but I've just been at this great place for so many months now that I'm like, okay, this is what fine and happy and on the other side actually feels like. A couple questions about Maine living in general. My friend Lauren asked about my ideal winter day in Maine, and unfortunately, Lauren, I hate it here in winter so much. I'm doing good. We're getting through. I'm trying to embrace it. But when I saw this question, my brain kind of went to like, oh, do I want to answer it like pre-kids or now? Because those days look vastly different. But since I am currently living that toddler life, I would say my ideal day currently in the season of life that we are now, we would wake up and Jack and I would sip our coffee just ourselves, probably about half an hour before going to get her, to kind of like have that moment in our morning. And then we would all fill our bellies just a little bit, like a piece of toast or something like that. And then we would head to Becky's Diner. It is my favorite breakfast spot in Portland, hands down. So good. I would get the Hobson's Wharf special. Jack would probably get whatever special they have on their pancakes. And then we would all kind of share that on the table. And then depending on how much time we had left after Becky's, we would round out our morning by going to do some sort of fun activity for her, whether it's the Children's Museum that's here. We have a membership there. It's so fun. Like anytime that she's having a really good time, we're having a really good time. So we would either do like the Children's Museum or the library or something to just round out the morning, get her a little bit tired. And then we'd come back, and then during her nap, we would either put on a movie and most likely fall asleep for a little afternoon nap, or I would put on like an ambiance on YouTube so that it's kind of like a winter snowy cozy ambiance type of vibe on the TV while I read my Kindle. And she would nap for like 2 to 3 hours in my ideal day. That's how long she would nap. And then in the afternoon, we would wake her up. She would have her lunch, which is so late in the day now. It's like 3 o'clock lunch. But then we would go to our favorite place to bring a toddler, and that is Costco. And we'd get anything weekly we needed from Costco. We would either fill our gas tank or get anything that's kind of low in the house that we typically get there. And Costco is so fun for her because the aisles are huge and she can just like book it. There's toys for her to look at. There's some clothes to sort through. Like it's just really good vibes. And then of course, at the end of the Costco run, we would get a Costco cookie or a slice of Costco pizza, and we sit in the car and we have a family picnic in the car with our Costco treat. We'd come back and most likely it would be time to end out the night with her night routine, which is dinner, bath, and bedtime with a little bit of play in there. And then once she went down, Nana would be here and Jack and I would go out on a cutie little date to one of our favorite dinner spots, whether it's a new dinner spot that we want to try in Portland or it's some of our favorites like Via Vecchia, Central Provisions, Scales. Like we would have like a really nice date night. And I think that would round out my favorite way to spend a chilly winter day in Maine. And then last but not least, baby number 2. Here's the situation on that. I'll tell you guys our original plan that we had a few months ago, and then I will shift to what our current plan is that we have comfortably landed on. The original plan, when Annie came and postpartum hit me like a ton of bricks, I was convinced I could never do it again. Like I was so confused about how any woman could experience something like postpartum depression and be like, oh, okay, but in a few months we're gonna start trying. Like the thought of getting pregnant again when Annie was anywhere from 0 to 9, 10, anywhere like those months of getting pregnant was so terrifying to me. But then when things started to feel lighter, like around the 10, 11, 12 month mark, and I was like, oh, okay, like I guess if we got pregnant right now, like it wouldn't be the worst. Like I would know that what was on the other side type of thing. Like as she got older and as things got easier and I started realizing how temporary things were for the good or for the bad or for the sad, I was like, okay, it wouldn't be like so scary. Like I remember at 4 months, I was like, I'm never doing this again. Like there's no way I could survive this again. So then around that time, our thought was, let's see where things are at when she's a year and a half old. Like if I'm feeling kind of okay now, like let's see how 6 months from now essentially feels. But then the new year turned, 2025 came, and Jack and I really like to take New Year's Eve to reflect and speak aloud kind of how we're feeling, some intentions for the new year, some goals that we have, reflect on everything that the past year was and what we want to carry in and leave behind. It's just a really nice, inspiring night for us. But of course, in that, we talked about what this year looked like as far as our family expanding or not expanding goes. But then throughout that conversation, it just became abundantly clear that it is not the year to add another one. And that just felt so freeing to just decide that nowhere in 2025 will we pick back up this conversation. Like I know that this full year is simply just for enjoying our current little family. And just because that felt so good to say out loud, and the idea of that was just so relieving in a way and like took a lot of pressure off, I just know it's the right decision for our family. And I'm really excited to go into 2025 and experience that vibe and not questioning if I'm ready for the next one or how we're going to go about that or what our choices are going to be. Like it's just so nice. I think it's important to note though that a big part of that conversation had to do with me, obviously, because I will be housing said child, I will be birthing said child, and I will be experiencing postpartum, whatever that looks like for said second child. And giving myself the time that feels good for me feels really, really good as well. I feel like I was putting so much pressure on myself, almost like every single month postpartum being like, okay, what about this time frame and what about that time frame and all this stuff. And there's definitely just an overarching like scientific timeline that we have as far as how old I want to be when I'm not having any more children, you know? But I feel like I just got on the other side of postpartum. I feel like the past few months I've just now experienced what light feels like again. And I feel like I'd be robbing myself of that joy if I fell right back into another baby. Part of me feels like that might be a selfish decision, but I think I'm allowed to be selfish in this instance. But also at the end of the day, I think that my small family, my husband and my baby deserve the best version of myself, at least the best version that I can set myself up to be before we dive into something. Like, I think me being fully ready for it versus putting a timeline or a pressure on it will ultimately serve not just me, but all of us as a family unit better than if I were to just dive into something because I felt like I should. Does that make sense? But anyways, my friends, that is going to be it for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did and you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, make sure to do so down below. I also will leave my Instagram down below in case you want to stay up to date with more real-time updates. I love you all so, so, so much, and I will catch you in the next one, my friends. I'll see you later. Bye!